Bars and alcohol. We're going to talk about some of the culture about going out for drinks and then what you could drink if you're visiting friends in the US, okay? And drinking culture, well, drinking alcohol is not good for you, but it kind of tastes good and it's a big part of American culture. People have fun having a couple drinks together. Don't have too much, but having a couple cocktails with your friends might be kind of a fun, nice thing. And going to bars can be a nice experience to enjoy the atmosphere. It's energetic, there are people, maybe there's music, maybe you could watch a sports game, lots of different stuff. So first up, let's talk about different kinds of bars. So, people in the US go to bars a lot. Like on the weekends, people will go to a bar and hang out with their friends. Maybe, like I said, watch a sports game on the TVs. It's pretty fun because there's energy. And if you want to watch a game, maybe it's more fun at a bar because there are 50 people cheering for the same team. But if you're at home, maybe it's just you or something like that, okay? So the word bar is just a general word for this kind of place that serves drinks. And if you say bar, I kind of think of this style. Just kind of a regular bar. People go to have some unhealthy food and have a couple drinks and enjoy chatting with their friends, okay? Like that's a standard bar, and you don't need to dress fancy. I might wear this to just a bar. Okay, there's another kind of bar called a cocktail bar. And a cocktail bar, usually they serve cocktails. They probably have other drinks too, but if you go to one of these, the bartender, the person serving drinks, he might know a lot of things. He might make special drinks that are really good. A regular bar might just be beer and wine. They pour it and give it to you. A cocktail bar, the bartender is almost like an artist. They mix it together and make this amazing, delicious drink. So a cocktail bar is somewhere a little bit nicer. And maybe I'd wear a shirt with a collar, like a button-down shirt or something. Okay? So that's kind of a nice bar. The opposite side, what's a really bad bar? A bad bar is called a dive bar. I'm not sure why we use the word dive, but a dive bar is like a really cheap bar that maybe it's dark, it might be a little bit dirty, and it's just not a nice place. And I'm imagining it, like if you watch a movie where someone goes into a bar and they just sit there alone and drink too much beer and then they sleep on the bar. That might be a dive bar. So imagine like a police officer who's angry. He goes to the bar, drinks too much beer, and then falls asleep at the bar. That might be a dive bar. Just like a place you go to and it doesn't feel very nice. Okay? You see a lot of dive bars in movies. Now, the next kind is a lounge bar. These are pretty popular in Taiwan. I don't really go to them, but I know there are a lot of lounge bars around here. A lounge bar is like a nice, fancy bar, kind of like a cocktail bar, except it's a lounge. A lounge meaning there are lots of big, comfortable seats. Maybe you stay with your friends at a table or on couches like this, and it's like a very comfortable place where you lounge. To lounge means like sit relaxed. At a bar, you might sit at the bar or stand. At a cocktail bar, same thing. You might sit at the bar or stand and talk to your friends. A lounge bar, you go to the bar, get a drink, but then go to your seat at your couch and sit with your friends. So it's a little bit of a different feel. Bars and cocktail bars, a lot of people might be close together. Maybe you talk to people you don't know. But a lounge bar, I think you usually would stick to your friends. Okay? Now, another kind of place where you can get drinks is called a brewery. Brewery. This is a hard word to say. So to brew something, B-R-E-W, means to make a drink. So you can brew coffee. Okay? So a brewery is a place where they make beer. They brew beer. So brew, brewer, brewery. It's a tricky word. So say brewery with me. Brewery. Ugh, it's hard for me to say too. A brewery is a kind of place that's become really popular in the US recently. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but breweries are now like a really common place for people to go hang out. Bars are popular at nighttime, usually. A brewery is usually popular during the day. And what's special about it is it's a place that makes their own beer. You can see these big barrels. This is what they use to make beer. And then they use those big machines and then put the beer into these things called kegs. A keg is like a big metal thing that they fill with beer. And the brewery, it makes the beer, but then it will also have a bar. And they have lots of tables where you can sit and talk with your friends and family. And so you can see up here, they might have a lot of different beers on tap. So this kind of beer is called draft beer. Draft beer means they take it out of the keg. And that means the beer is fresh. Okay? So draft beer is really fresh beer that comes from a keg. And if it's on tap, a tap means this kind of metal thing. And so they are getting the beer out of this tap. So the beer is on tap instead of being in a can or in a bottle. Can or bottle beer is less fresh, okay? So at a brewery, you can get draft beer on tap. And why is this so popular? Well, this kind of place is really popular in the daytime. People go on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, relax with your friends, have a chat, have a couple beers, and that's it. The reason they're so popular, especially with people my age, is that these are kid-friendly and pet-friendly. So people who have kids can bring their kid to a brewery and they can drink beer and their kids can run around and play. Okay? Which sounds kind of crazy. But moms and dads need to relax too, right? And maybe you can't leave your kid and go to a bar at night, but you could take your kid to a brewery in the daytime. And they're really big spaces, so it's okay for kids to be running around. And dad can have his beer while the baby is just hanging out and says, oh, I don't know. And then you can see down here, there are the adults having some beer, and in the corner we have some kids coloring. So some breweries will have fun stuff for kids to do too. Which sounds crazy, but it's real. Like my brother has a son who's 1 year old, and so when I visited America, my brother, his wife, and their son met me and my parents at a brewery. So we hung out, chatted, and it's okay that we have a baby, right? Because it's nice, it's daytime, it's relaxing. These places are also pet friendly. So these two words are good to know. Something - friendly means it's okay for them. It's good for them. So these places are kid friendly, meaning it's good for kids to go. It's pet friendly, meaning they're nice to pets too. It's okay to bring your dog. And so I don't think I don't think the dog would be drinking beer, but people will bring their pets and their dogs will hang out at the brewery because it's a really big open space and it's comfortable for everybody. So kind of a crazy thing, right? You have adults and little babies and pets all at this place that makes beer. Bizarre, right? But they're really, really popular in the US right now. Okay. Another kind of place where you could go is called a beer garden. These are really popular in Europe, like in Germany, but there are some in the US also. So a beer garden is like a bar, but it's a place that's outside and you can sit, enjoy the weather, and have some beer and chat with your friends and family. Okay? A similar thing is called a winery. And this is kind of like a beer garden. You can go outside, but it's focused on wine. So winery. It could be like a beer garden, or it could be like a brewery where they make the stuff there. So the winery, they serve wine, and maybe they even make the wine at that place. Okay? And one thing you can do at a winery is a wine tasting, where someone who works there will come and teach you about the wine, maybe show you different styles of wine and let you try different types. If you watch the show White Lotus, in the show White Lotus, they go to a winery in season 2, where there's a waiter who's telling them about the wine. They taste different stuff, and everyone goes crazy because that show's crazy. But yeah, so these are the different places where you can go to get a nice drink. So that's pretty, they're all different, right? A bar is kind of casual. A cocktail bar, you have to dress nice, but it's kind of fun to be fancy sometimes. A dive bar is really cheap. It's good for college students. And a lounge bar is like if you want to be extra fancy. So what about you? What kinds of bars do you like? I think I like a regular casual bar most of the time. But once in a while, going to a cocktail bar is kind of nice. You feel a little bit fancy. Like, ooh, I'm going to have this special cocktail that the bartender made. And I really like breweries. I don't think we really have these in Taiwan. Well, you could go to the Taiwan Beer Brewery and sit at a place like this. So yeah, Taiwan Beer has a brewery, but it's not really a popular place to go. And then beer gardens. There was only one beer garden I know when I lived in Massachusetts, in Cambridge, close to Harvard. And that was a little beer garden, but I haven't been to any really big ones. In wineries, these are common in, I think, New York and in like San Francisco, but I haven't been to one yet. So maybe you've been to more of these places than me. Oh, Yupei says, last month I went to a cool bar that has lots of Switch, PS4, and VR equipment. I think we can call it a game bar. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So she went to a bar that has video games and stuff like that. That's awesome. That kind of bar, you could call it a game bar, but to be more specific, if it's about video games, that's called a barcade. So an arcade, we don't really have many arcades around. An arcade is a place with video games. Like in Taipei, there's a place called Tom's World. It's a big place with lots of video game machines. So that's called an arcade. But if you have beer and video games, you can call it a barcade. Take bar, arcade, stick it together. Yeah, a barcade can be really fun. Cool. So they had Switch games and PS4 games there. That's great. I went to a barcade in New York City with my friend, and it was filled with like old games from the 1990s. And so I thought that was super fun. Lots of games that I played when I was like 10 years old. And that was pretty cool. Drink a nice beer, play a video game, a lot of fun. So yeah, try to find a barcade. Or if you're a rich person, open a barcade so I can go. Okay, so these are the different places you can go to get drinks. Okay? Let's see. Candace says, do teenagers go to the brewery with their parents? And what age is an adult in the US? Like, when can you have a drink? That's a great question. So, so for a bar, you can't go to a bar if you're underage. So, if you want to go to a bar, you have to be legal age. So the legal drinking age in the US is 21. So in the US, you have to be 21 to drink alcohol. Now, that's the legal limit. That doesn't mean that younger people don't drink. A lot of people younger than that drink, but it's not okay. It's illegal. So you're only allowed to drink when you're 21 years old. Okay? So if it's a place that's only a bar, like a cocktail bar, they only have drinks, you have to be 21 to go there. There's some places where it's a restaurant with a bar. If it's like that, a teenager could go to the restaurant, but they can't drink something from the bar, right? So if it's a place that only is there for drinking, like a bar, a cocktail bar, a dive bar, you can only go there if you're 21 and up, okay? Now, a thing about a brewery, they let anybody go. I don't know why the rules are different, but they let all ages go. So you could have little kids, you could have kids, you could have teenagers, but the only people who can drink are 21 and up, okay? So 21 plus, you could say, okay? Yeah, so how do they make sure they don't give drinks to people? Well, if you look young, they will actually, legally, these people at the bar, the law says they have to look at your ID every time you buy a drink. So that in some places, they will always check your ID and say, we have to, it's the rule. But then if you look older, they won't card you. They won't check your ID. So somewhere like a brewery, if there's like a 18-year-old, they look pretty young. Like someone who's 18 looks young. And so the people at the bar, the bartenders, will card them. To card someone means ask to see their ID, your ID card, right? So they check your ID, and if you're underage, they say, nope, you can't have a drink. Maybe you can have a soda or buy a snack or something, okay? But good question. So yeah, young people can go to a brewery, but they can't order alcohol, okay? And a beer garden would probably not let, for a younger person, I'm not sure. A beer garden might let in young people because it's outdoor. A winery is usually only for adults, so they would not let you in if you're too young, because a winery is a little more fancy. They don't want kids there. That's the thing. A brewery is casual and relaxed, so they let kids go, but don't let them drink? Okay, good question. Okay, so that's pretty much it about the different places you can go drinking in the US and the popular kinds of places. So let's talk a little bit about what you can get at these places.